Thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about politics, royals, and we have an interview with Lisa, who's a Britney Spears podcaster. Our user feedback is about our last episode, and we end with our weekly feature, The Comments of the Week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 82. Hi, I'm Katie, the founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra. I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
We will be back next week, and then we're taking the week after off, so we'll be off on the 28th of February. We're doing that 3 weeks on, 1 week off.
Mm-hmm.
The big thing on Twitter yesterday for me was that my mom sent me this picture of a huge alligator at her front door. And at first I didn't think it was her front door, even though I know what it looks like, because it was so unreal. Like, it was just this huge gator right there.
Yeah, I mean, he was really big, and he looked very well fed.
Yeah, like he was smiling at the screen door. And I know what my parents' front door looks like, but I thought it was a prank. Like she got a Photoshop thing, or it was the neighbors or something. Because they live in the villages in Florida, which there's a million houses around them. They don't live near a body of water. They do. There's a man-made body of water, but it's way down the block on the main street. They live on a side street like 30 houses down. This sucker was at the front door, which comes off the road. Like, how did that happen?
He hitched a
ride. They have a big open area in the back. What the hell? So she sent it to my son and me. It said, "Holy shit." And I was like, she's pranking. There's no way that's real. I called her. She was freaking out. She had a doctor's appointment, but the car was in the garage. So she could have just opened the garage and closed it and got out in the car. No problem, as long as it didn't go in the garage. She was understandably freaking out about that. I would have been too.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's why I don't live in Florida. Like, I couldn't live like that. I couldn't live with, like, a smiling alligator outside my door. Oh, God.
I know. I can't believe that. I'm just surprised that it came there. Because when I was there, the last time I was there was in December of 2019. And there was news about an alligator at the water, the man-made lake, because everything there is fake and man-made. Yeah. But
the alligators don't care. They'll go in man-made rivers and lakes and streams. They travel.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to see it at the fake lake, but there was just a rumor about it. Now it's coming to people's houses. What the hell?
Well, I mean, I joke that, like, he looks so well fed. It looks like he's making his way through the neighborhood eating grandbabies and cats. I mean, he looked plump.
He probably eats cats. The grandkids can visit, but there's really strict rules about having kids. Nobody can have kids there. But yeah, my parents have a miniature schnauzer, and they keep her on a leash when they take her out. But I was like, what is that alligator doing at the front door? Is it looking for Sassy, their dog? Like, holy shit.
I mean, by the size of him, he was looking for your mom.
Oh my gosh. Did they cook something and could it smell it? Was it garbage day? Like, I don't even know.
Do alligators smell like that? Do they smell their prey?
I looked it up and it said, if you want to make sure alligators don't come around, you can mix like human urine and ammonia and put it around your property.
Ew.
You could get a fence. I know. I would do it. I was doing that to get rid of the skunks. I was like having my kid pee in the garden to get rid of the skunks. But I was. He didn't care. He's a boy. He's like, sure, I'll go pee outside. It's true.
He's like, I'd prefer to be outside, Mom.
Yeah, they love doing that. It's like nature for them. Oh. Yeah, it said don't leave garbage around because that'll attract the gators. They're like bears or whatever. Oh my gosh. I wanted to play this segment from Zoom. It's just us clowning about it, but I thought it was funny.
I tweeted you, it's his house now. Like, it's his.
I would have just had to pack up and leave. I'd be like, you can have it.
For what he could be, he has not reached dinosaur size yet.
Have you seen that one in Florida who looks like a giant dinosaur just casually walking around? Have you seen that video? Yes. Yeah. And people were like, oh, it's Photoshop. And the people in the neighborhood was like, oh, no, it's not. We see him all the time. He just hangs out. just chilling, walking around on the water's edge.
He looks
It's a no
hungry.
for me.
He looks like he's hungry.
So yeah, I wanted to play that because I found the video that Amira mentioned. And there's an alligator like walking straight up. It's not crawling on the ground. It looks fucking huge. And I saw this segment on Inside Edition where they interviewed the expert. And he's like, that's a high walk. Imagine if you were doing a push-up. That's how it is for that gator. And they can walk like that. And I'm like, oh my God. They're the same as they were in the dinosaur age.
Yeah, I mean, they're dinosaurs. They're dinosaur remnants.
And the fact that they survived this long says something about those evil bastards.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at us like we're food. Ugh.
Oh, we are. Like, I was looking up alligator. I wouldn't look it up again. I didn't look at pictures, but they've killed people. Mm-hmm. They've really killed people. So we talked about snakes and stuff too on the call.
We don't have to talk about snakes, but oh God. I mean, we have snakes here in Virginia. We have copperheads and rattlesnakes. We have a lot of rattlesnakes.
I heard a friend seeing those rattlesnakes while they're hiking and stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't. I'm not a big hiker.
I've seen like just black snakes, just regular old black snakes, and they scare the shit out of me. I don't like snakes, but I know that most of them are pretty harmless. I'm
okay with snakes. Like, my aunt has a snake phobia, and she went to Costa Rica with her wife. She was freaking out going on like a tour with her. The guy giving the tour was like, yeah, those snakes are poisonous and blah, blah, blah. My aunt's like, oh, hell no. I don't want to. I'm going to go back to the tour bus.
Yeah, I feel like push comes to shove, a snake will bite you or like attack you some way before an alligator would, I think. I have no proof for that.
It probably would, but alligators are fucking fast, man.
Yeah. An alligator would rather eat a cat or a dog rather than a human.
Yeah.
A snake just doesn't give a shit. A snake will just attack anything.
I think you're supposed to punch the alligator between the eyes, like I was reading something.
I think that's sharks. You're supposed to punch a shark between the eyes.
Sharks, yeah. All right, I'll put it in the post what you're supposed to do. I don't want to give people false information in case they ever are in a dangerous gator situation.
Fake news about alligators.
So this week we had the impeachment trial started, and they voted that they could continue with the impeachment trial. It was voted constitutional in the Senate by all the Democrats and 6 Republicans. And we need 17 Republicans to convict. So it's probably not likely that Trump is going to get convicted despite the massive amounts of evidence that he incited insurrection.
We knew a lot of this evidence at the time, like in the days following the insurrection. We understood like what exactly had happened. But the impeachment managers, and there are 9 of them, and they are all amazing. The impeachment managers, really, they have like put together a very thorough, comprehensive case, and they've introduced all of this video footage. And someone said that like one of the nonprofit groups, you know, they scraped everything from Parler before Parler got shut down, so they have all of these firsthand videos from the terrorists, and so they're going to be introducing that footage as well.
That was hard to watch.
Yeah.
And you could see effort by the mob to breach the Capitol and them counting together to surge, and it was really horrible.
And some of the police officers had their cameras turned on, and so there were like on the steps of the Capitol, you could see the cop being beaten with like poles and flags. They were holding an American flag on a pole, and they started using the pole to beat the cops. And I mean, that's how the one police officer died, because he was beaten to death with flagpoles.
And I heard the interview with the other officer who said they took his gun and they were going to shoot him with his own gun, and he pleaded for his life and said, I have kids. Mm-hmm. And some people were like, okay, we won't kill you today. It was like, thank you, but fuck you. So then Representative Jamie Raskin from Maryland opened the trial, showing that footage, and he talked about the fact that his daughter and son-in-law were there with him that day and how devastating that was. He had just lost his son the previous week. That was hard to take. And we got to see Trump's lawyers, who were just idiots. They just talked in circles. It made no sense. Bruce Castor was the worst one.
Yeah, Bruce Castor was the worst one. He was not prepared whatsoever. And he even admitted that. He said that, like, he wasn't expecting the impeachment manager's case to be so solid, like their opening statement to be so solid. He decided to change strategy midway, and then, like, he didn't know what to do. So he was just vamping. It was like open mic night. It was ridiculous. He kept going off script to the point where he was hurting Trump's case. There was the part where he suggested that if the impeachment case is so strong against Trump, then they should just arrest him.
Oh, okay. You're saying they should arrest. And supposedly Trump was really angry at that, but he has nowhere to vent because he doesn't have any outlet.
And then his lawyers were making the case that Trump had lost the election, so why do we need to impeach him? And why would he need to incite a terrorist attack if Joe Biden won the election? And, like, they don't understand that that's the reason why he incited a terrorist attack, is because he lost the election.
It makes zero sense. Yeah. And they kept calling him the 45th president because Trump doesn't want to be called the former president. I saw.
Yeah. Raskin kept on calling him ex-president. And other people have been saying former president.
That's what he is, but all right, we talked about this on Zoom, and this is Ashley, Zakiya, Sarah, and Karen.
The most interesting part was when Raskin was talking about his kids being there on January 6th, which
that was heartbreaking.
Didn't know. And Bruce Castor, I would want all my money back. Bruce Castor was a disaster. He could have asked anybody, any old Joe Blow off the street, because that man said he should be arrested. They shouldn't have done this prior or after he was out of office.
Yes.
So what?
He said the DOJ hasn't arrested him yet.
The impeachment managers were so good.
They're good today,
they were
too.
Compelling.
They were awesome. Awesome. I'm so proud to be a Democrat in the level that they came with and just the facts and how they presented it and passion. And they were just awesome.
They're so prepared. It's so nice to see government officials in any country prepared. And my friend texted me and went, "It's very Meghan Markle of them." It's very Meghan Markle of them. They've all got a binder. They've all read their briefings.
They're label maker of justice. Yes.
Josh Hawley has his feet up on the seat in front of him, just chilling. He's being super disrespectful right now.
Who does?
And Josh Hawley, that bastard from Missouri. I don't know that man's mama, but he's a bastard to me. His every piece of body language is disrespectful. And when I tell you that wouldn't ride in my house, it would be a fight.
Oh, I would be dead. If my parents were talking to me like that, I was just like, I would be dead. There's no way.
So yeah, what's his name? Hawley, Josh Hawley from Missouri. Mm-hmm. Such an asshole sitting there with his feet up. Like Ashley said. I like how she said, "I don't know that man's mama, but he's a bastard to me." She has some great sayings. I'm going to use that. What an asshole.
Yeah, and he wouldn't even sit at his desk in the Senate chamber. He sat in the gallery with his feet up, and he was, like, reading other shit. And they're like...
Mein Kampf.
Yeah, probably.
I'm sorry. Sorry.
Like the greatest hits of Adolf Hitler. And then Lindsey Graham was, like, saying some shit about how the House impeachment manager's case was so bad that he thinks that more people are going to vote to not convict Trump.
He just flip-flops so much.
I don't understand what Lindsey Graham's game is at this point. Trump is out of office. You don't still have to suck his dick. Get over it. Like, he's not going to be around to take you golfing anymore.
He got harassed at the airport. He's probably scared of those MAGAs. Who knows what their strategy is now. And we also heard from Delegate Plaskett from the Virgin Islands. She was really impressive. A lot of people were talking about her. she showed footage of Officer Eugene Goodman telling Mitt Romney to turn around so he wouldn't meet up with the crowd that was out for blood.
Mm-hmm.
And then he went back downstairs and did what we all saw him do, which was lead the crowd away from the Senate chamber.
Right.
Which was impressive. Like, I thought he would just happen to be there, but he deliberately went down there and moved them to another area.
Right. So he saved Mitt Romney's life, and then he saved the entire Senate's lives, because those assholes, they had zip ties, they had weapons, they had stun guns.
The gallows, they were ready. So he's going to get nominated for the Congressional Medal of Honor?
It's a different thing. The Congressional Medal of Honor, I think, is given actually by the president, and Congress wants to give him the Congressional Gold Medal.
Oh, okay.
Which is just something that Congress can give, I think.
Oh, okay. Nice. And he got to guard Vice President Kamala Harris at the inauguration, which was excellent.
Right. I felt like that was a really classy move from both of them, but I also felt like he deserved some time off. And he's been at the impeachment hearings, too. He was sitting in the very back as they were showing all the footage of his absolute heroics. And there's some photos where he just looks haunted. And I mean, 2 other Capitol Police officers have died by suicide after the insurrection. I feel like a lot of shit went down.
They were doing that for hours.
Yeah. A lot of the cops are just torn up about it.
All right. Let's talk about the Royals. If you don't mind, I don't want to talk about it anymore.
No, that's fine.
We could always talk about Jen Psaki. Everybody loves her, but... So this week, Princess Eugenie and Jack Brooksbank had their baby. And Jack doesn't have a royal title, although Casamigos wants us to know his title as their European brand ambassador. So their baby isn't going to have a title, right?
Right. A few years back, there was always some angst about whether or not the Queen offered Jack a title or whether or not it was requested. I think that Jack never requested a title, and I doubt the Queen really offered him one. There was probably just a general vibe of, don't even worry about a title, I don't want one.
That seems on brand for them because they're kind of low-key, despite their family, their immediate family.
I think Jack is just very normal. Well, he wants to make money. He wants to work for Casamigos and do his thing.
Oh, and he can't do that if he's royal. He can just take... Yeah. So they made the announcement with a black and white photo on Instagram. I love the picture you chose for the header because you picked one of Jack holding Eugenie's hand at their wedding. And then in the Instagram photo, it was both of their hands with the baby's hands. So that was a nice touch that you did that.
Well, I didn't even think about
Oh, I thought you did on purpose.
I just chose that photo of Jack and Eugenie at their wedding because I thought Jack looked really sexy. It was the one photo where his angles were really working and he looked really handsome.
I thought you picked it for the hand thing.
No, I didn't. But that's really cool. I didn't even think of it.
Yeah.
The Instagram announcement and announcing it hours after she gave birth, it was all very reminiscent of, oh, right, Harry and Meghan welcoming Archie. Only there wasn't a press pack that was freaking the fuck out about every little decision that they made.
Yeah. And they framed it much different when Eugenie did that.
Yep.
So we also got a summary judgment in Meghan's case, which is excellent. So do you want to explain what it's her lawsuit against the Mail on Sunday for publishing her father's letter?
Right, yeah. It's super complicated because the Mail's defense made it so complicated, and they kept expanding the scope of the defense to introduce all of this new information, and it was just a fishing expedition on the part of the Mail and their lawyers. They just wanted more information so they could publish more shit about Meghan.
Yeah.
That's why it kept going on and on and on, and there were all these extensions. So that's why Meghan asked for a summary judgment, which was basically asking the judge to just settle down and look at the facts of the case as they are right now and decide whether or not she has a case or whether or not this should go to trial. And the Judge Warby, he had the hearing for it, and he said, you'll have my judgment in 2 weeks. The judgment came out today, the 11th. And he granted her summary judgment and said that her case stands, that the Daily Mail or the Mail on Sunday, they infringed her copyright for the letter. Now, the more complicated part, they could have a little mini trial to determine whose copyright it actually is, because the Mail did present some evidence that Meghan had some help with writing the letter by those 4 people: Jason Knopf, Christian Jones, Sarah Latham, and Samantha Cohen, who were all, working for Kensington Palace in various positions. And they all allegedly had some input on what Meghan wrote. But even if you can just say you should say something like this, that doesn't mean that you have any kind of copyright on the letter. Meghan wrote the letter herself.
That's what the New York Times reported. But then Omid Scobie is saying it's an all-out win on copyright and privacy.
Right, because the March trial, if there is a trial,
okay,
that would officially determine that Meghan solely owns the copyright and that no one else has the claim to it. So that Jason Knopf couldn't come in and say, actually, I have joint copyright because I helped her write the letter. I don't think any of those 4 staffers would say that, because they didn't.
Oh, it's like a speak now or forever hold your peace thing.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I assume the March trial will also be damages. What does the Mail owe?
That's what Scobie said too. All right, this will be interesting. I'm glad she won.
And then Meghan released a statement. We don't have to read all of it, but it's very passionate. And you can tell that, this shit has been weighing on her for the past 2 years. She did not think it was going to take 2 years to get this kind of judgment. And you can feel the emotion.
I like this one line. I just want to read this one line. We all lose when misinformation sells more than truth, when moral exploitation sells more than decency, and when companies create their business model to profit from people's pain. Ooh.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I just read in the rest of her statement, and you guys can read that on our site. We'll have it up Friday before this podcast comes out.
I'm really happy for Meghan, and we all knew that the actual issue at hand for the lawsuit was pretty cut and dry. It was a copyright infringement. They had no right to publish her letter. It's that simple. And then the Mail just kept throwing more and more mud, and the judge kept allowing it. The judge kept expanding it so that it became about finding freedom and the People magazine article with their friends and blah, 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 blah.
And Daily Mail getting more content for their website. Yep. And for their print edition as well. But a lot of it was just a fishing thing, like you said, so that they could have more stories about her.
Yep.
I don't know what else to talk about the royals because everything else seems insubstantial.
Yeah, people were mad at me because I said all right, Will and Kate did a Zoom call with a young, pretty nursing student in Northern Ireland, and people were mad that I said that this young woman is very attractive. She's very pretty. And you could tell that William noticed. That's all I'm saying.
More than that, I like what Wiglet Watcher wrote. So they decided to interview this woman. She did a TikTok. She's a British nurse. No, she was Irish, right?
Yeah, Northern Ireland, so.
Okay. So she did a TikTok about a day in her life, and it was very sanitized. It was set to music, and it was just this is what I do at the hospital. And some of the wording was more serious, but, she's lovely. It was a sanitized, simple look at her day. Mm-hmm. And Wiglet Watcher said, this is a bright-eyed, beautiful, and hopeful nursing student. She's ideal for PR. They're not showing the anger and thousand-yard stare many have now. You get used to death in healthcare, but when you see so many senseless and preventable deaths all at once, it eats at you. And she has worked as a nurse. She decided not to work during the pandemic, but she has worked. So, that's the issue with this, is that they picked somebody extremely palatable and made this cutesy video that's feel good.
Right. And once again, there's no there. It's just Will and Kate performing their keenness and saying, thank you so much for being a nurse. There's nothing substantive anyway. So, of course, it becomes about the superficial.
We talked about this 2 Zooms ago. And I excerpted that and didn't use it, and I'm going to put it in now. We talked about the fact that Will and Kate, they make it all about themselves.
Yeah.
And it's always about them versus the people they're interviewing. And Meghan and Harry make it about the experts they're interviewing.
But you know what's so funny about the whole story about them sending food or something? And again, making this all about them. Whereas when Harry and Meghan, it was more about they didn't get on Zoom and make all this. They just sent a lovely note and just said, you know, thank you so much for everything you do. And they didn't make it about them.
It's very telling that with Harry and Meghan, the charities that they reach out to and help are the ones who are then promoting that and saying, hey, we'd really like to shout out these people who helped us. Whereas Will and Kate always have to raise their hand for that recognition.
Yeah, they're always like, look at what we did. Let us present it to you. I'm going to wear my most plattiest dress ever.
I would like a sticker. I did something that was expected of me. I would like my praise and reward now, because that's
she
how
looked so insipid. She looked so insipid sitting there in that stupid plaid dress because she was doing a call with people from Scotland. Like, really?
I gave Will and Kate some minor credit because I think it's perfectly possible that they are genuinely trying to draw attention to overworked nursing students or overworked nurses, overworked healthcare workers. They genuinely want to thank them for what they're doing. But then Will and Kate act like assholes every other time they're out. You know, like they're out maskless. They do this stupid fucking train tour. They wander red carpet maskless. So what they're actually trying to do in these Zoom calls falls flat because they're not practicing anything that they're preaching.
And they're trying to get credit for everything every time.
Right.
They get credit before they do it when they think about it, and they get credit, you know?
Yeah. That's like the pre-announcement of like tours. They would do like 5 different announcements about a tour, and then they wanted those 5 announcements to count as events.
And we're going to get a super secret special initiative by Kate. So we better look forward to that. And so Meghan and Harry stopped into a Zoom poetry class. All we have is a screenshot. That's fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And a statement from the class. That's all we have.
There was someone saying that there was a video circulating on social media, but when I was writing that post, I could not find it anywhere. So I don't know where this video is supposed to be. I didn't see any of it.
Somebody sent me something on Instagram, but I think it was just a screenshot.
Yeah, I think it was too, but...
I mean, that's awesome. We can't even find the video. Like, there's rumors of a video. We heard that they were super prepared. Of course, they were prepared. And that they knew the bios of the young poets. And so right after Meghan and Harry did a joint Zoom, then William and Kate did a joint Zoom. Because Kate was doing them alone before that.
I mean, like, to be fair to Will and Kate, that's not their first joint Zoom.
No.
They were doing that last summer, and I don't really understand why, but whatever. Obviously, Will and Kate copy Meghan and Harry all the time. I just don't think that they were copying them in this very particular instance.
No, maybe you're right. Maybe it's just a coincidence like everything else they do right after Meghan and Harry do it.
All right.
You're giving them too much credit. So we had a couple of really shady stories about the royals in like the legit British press. The Guardian reported that Prince Charles and the Queen have vetted over 1,000 bills in Parliament under this old act called the Queen's Consent. So it's technically legal under British law. But what they're doing is they're protecting their estates and their monetary interests.
Right. They're privately lobbying government ministers to pass bills that will protect their privacy, protect their wealth, make it so that they don't have to do any sort of financial disclosure ever.
So the Queen did that in the 70s so that we never know how many millions of pounds she has from the taxpayers. And Charles did it so that the people leasing his land on the Duchy of Cornwall estate can't ever own their homes.
Right. And I mean, the Duchy of Cornwall estate, we're talking like hundreds of thousands of acres of land.
Oh my God, this is some feudal shit. I didn't even know that.
I mean, he owns apartments and cottages and houses and farms. I mean, the duchy owns all of that. And they're given these long leases, but they can never own the land. They'll never own the home.
Shady. So who's into politics now? So the new Britney Spears New York Times documentary came out, and it's called Framing Britney Spears. You can watch it on Hulu. It's only an hour and 15 minutes. It's a really fast watch, and it's kind of crazy to see everything all at once. And it really made the case that Britney shouldn't have been placed on a conservatorship. And after watching it, I was like, yeah, I agree. She shouldn't have been on that. And I realized that I just learned last week that one of my friends from Zoom, who I've been talking to for almost a year, Lisa, has a Britney podcast. It's called Eat, Pray, Britney. And it's really popular, and she just was keeping it to herself and not telling us about it, which I understand because I never tell people about my job. So I interviewed her this week. And here's that segment with Lisa. So I'm talking to Lisa. She is one of the co-hosts of the Eat, Pray, Britney podcast. And I have actually known Lisa on Zoom since April of last year, because you started coming to our weekly Celebrity Zooms. And I just was I take a screenshot every week. You have come to every Zoom since you started.
Yeah, I think I wasn't at the first one that you did.
Yeah.
But then when you posted about it on Instagram, usually I'm very shy and would feel nervous about joining a Zoom with people I don't know. Mm-hmm. I'm like, what better thing for me to talk to strangers about than my passion in life, celebrity gossip? And it has been the highlight of my year, truly.
I'm so glad to meet you too. And everyone looks up to you in our group as the old school, especially celebrity expert, because you know so much about gossip. You have like an encyclopedic knowledge of gossip.
It's sad I can't remember like how to file my taxes, but if you need me to list off every husband J-Lo has had, I can do that for you easily.
You'd be good at trivia. So I didn't find out until last week that you have a Britney podcast. You never said anything about it up until then.
Most of the time I don't work it into everyday conversation unless it's relevant, and it just so happens to be super relevant right now. But yeah, most of my friends and family, and same thing with Jacqueline, the co-host of the podcast, most of our friends and family, A, I don't even know if some of them know what a podcast is, but B, it is not on their radar that we have a podcast about Britney Spears. Well, and I think with this too, like right now, hopefully with the Framing Britney Spears documentary that just came out and the renewed interest, it's now something people are much more interested in, but it used to be something that kind of either people were making fun of or were just kind of confused about.
We're going to talk about the Framing Britney Spears documentary. First of all, it's really quick. It's only an hour and 15 minutes. And I like how they showed the negative treatment of Britney in the press and how much agency she really has and her heart and kindness and how she's kind of very smart and smarter than she's been portrayed.
So to your first point, just the length of the documentary, I think is important because, well, there's obviously so much more that you could get into. I think in terms of this being an introduction for people who didn't know about this previously or had preconceived notions that they realize after watching this are not correct, maybe, well, there very well could be like a 10-episode docuseries about this. I think the fact that this is manageable to get people introduced is really good. But then also to your point, I think it's really great that the documentary didn't just start with 2008 when the conservatorship began, or 2007 when we all remember the head shaving, the umbrella, all of that. It's important to go back to her early career, not just to establish how successful she was, but like you said, how kind she was, how hardworking she was, that she really had a creative direction and vision for herself, that she wasn't just this, what I think a lot of media put on her, that she was kind of this airhead pop star young girl who didn't really know what was going on. Like she was a creative performer.
Yes. I like the part where they talked about how she picked her own choreographer and a choreographer who worked with her. Like Britney was always in charge. She always said what we're supposed to do. And she made the decisions over her career at that point.
And I think that's something where one of the things I don't think Britney has gotten enough credit for is that she is an artist. And I think Britney is somebody who definitely dancing and singing and performing is a huge creative outlet for her. She is a person who's really creative. And I think not just for Britney, but for pop stars in general, that's something that people are often more dismissive of them, and that they don't have the same level of artistry that other performers or musicians would have. Like looking at someone like Mariah Carey, who has written all of these songs that went to #1, but she's by some measures still not seen as substantial in some way because she's a female, quote, pop diva and not Bob Dylan or, you know, Bruce Springsteen or something like that. Not that I don't love Bruce.
And I really liked what you talked about on your last episode of your podcast, the fact that it's like a catch-22 gaslighting situation, that no matter what Britney does, now that she's in a conservatorship, she can't get out of it, because if she complains too much about it, oh, well, that's what she would do because she doesn't have agency. And if she doesn't complain, then she accepts it, so she can't get out. It kind of reminded me of that. I looked it up, the Rose hand experiment. I learned about it in psychology class, like Psych 101, where they sent these people to an institution and they were psychology students. And no matter what they did, it was interpreted as them being deserving to be there.
Wow. I did not know about that study, but I think it's so relevant to Britney's situation, because that's, I think, a question that people ask a lot. Like, if they know that we know about Britney, and that's one of their questions is like, well, does she still deserve to be in the conservatorship? Or she seems weird from her Instagram, or I don't think there's any behavior she could demonstrate that would make people think she's totally fine and this shouldn't be happening, or a behavior she could demonstrate that would make the court system concerned enough to say like, oh, this shouldn't be happening. And in regards to her Instagram, especially, because that's really what the more mainstream media has focused on. Every time Britney has an Instagram post, they'll have a story about it. And a lot of the headlines will be something to the effect of, Britney seems erratic in latest video. Britney concerns fans with latest videos. And it could be her dancing videos. It could be one of her infamous crop top off the shoulder peasant blouses that she posts, you know, a series of 8 photos of, whatever it is. But people are like, well, why doesn't she say something on her Instagram? But could you imagine if Britney did an Instagram live, which unclear if she can even do that because she does not seem to have control of her Instagram allegedly. But if she did an Instagram live and was like, help, I'm trapped in my house and my dad won't let me out, everyone would just be like, oh boy, there she goes again.
So the entire world and the media is interpreting Britney through the lens of her conservatorship, kind of like that famous experiment. And no matter what she does, it's going to be interpreted that way.
Yeah, completely well said, Katie. I think that's really it. That's always kind of my frustration when people seem to be very kind of matter of fact or like, oh, it's so cut and dry. Well, that's just how it is. But I don't see what she could do at this point. And, you know, there is the person in the documentary, Vivian Lee Thoreen, who...
Yes, I was just going to ask about her.
Okay, great. So at the time of the documentary, they say she was previously a member of Jamie Spears' conservatorship team. What wasn't covered in the documentary, because it happened after, she has now since rejoined Jamie's team. So she is part of Team Conservatorship right now.
She's a lawyer.
Yes.
Who said that she's never seen anybody terminate a conservatorship.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I want to raise. And again, this is someone who, this is her business. She works in conservatorships and estate law. And they directly asked her, have you ever seen someone successfully petition to get out of a conservatorship? And she said no. So I think that's your answer there of why a conservatorship is such an extreme measure that must be taken with the utmost care, because this is something where you are robbing someone of their civil liberties potentially for the rest of their life. Because although the court is supposed to have these mechanisms to protect people, this is actually a much more routine legal process that there aren't always those stopgaps in place that should be there.
And we also saw in the documentary Adam Streisand, and he's the lawyer who Britney contacted prior to being placed under a conservatorship. And she told him, as you discussed on your podcast, that she did not want her father to be her conservator. And it's very clear also from this documentary that Britney had to accept that in order to see her sons, which is criminal.
That's always been something that the fans before the Free Britney movement really got more widespread in the last year, that was always something that the fans wondered behind the scenes, because in the years between 2008 and really like 2018, 2019, really, most people didn't even realize she was under this conservatorship because the media never really talked about this. One of the only times that this was talked about pre-2019, there was a New York Times article in 2016, "Is Britney ready to stand on her own?" And that was really one of the only times it was ever acknowledged in like a larger media outlet. But the question always was, well, why doesn't Britney just like refuse to perform? Or why doesn't she, when she's in an interview, tell people what's happening? And that was always the speculation of the fans, was she knows if she does something quote unquote unmanageable, then they will prevent her from seeing her sons. Because she is not a legal person, she can't really have custody of her kids in the way that, you know, a typical parent would be able to, because she can't make her own decisions, you know? So that's, I think, one of the darkest things to think about is Britney's kids being used as leverage. And we've actually seen, there were letters the Daily Mail posted last year that then this year were attributed to a person named Andrew Gallery, who used to be a photographer for her. And he had these TikTok videos this summer reading these letters, which were basically like these loose leaf written on a piece of paper letters from Britney. And that's one of the things she talks about in the letter, is that she knows that they're keeping her kids from her and that she has to, you know, basically behave or she won't get to see them.
So they're leveraging Britney to perform and make them money and using her kids against her that way.
That's what it seems to be. And then, you know, in more recent times, really within the last few months, it's also been speculated that the reason Britney wasn't performing for the last few years and the reason that her second Las Vegas residency was canceled was because Britney was refusing to perform. And again, that was something that the Free Britney people were speculating about, but it has now since been confirmed. Her court-appointed advocate, Sam Ingham, said in court documents last fall, Britney will not perform until her father is removed from her conservatorship.
Yeah, I really understand that Britney shouldn't have been under this conservatorship, and this documentary really makes the case that they're using her for money, and particularly her father, who does not seem to have her best interest at heart.
They make this clear in the documentary, because I think this was always something that people were confused about. The head shaving and the umbrella was almost a full year before the conservatorship happened. But in the few months before the head shaving and umbrella incidents, Britney had her second son just like 6 months before. She had another baby under 2. She was in the process of getting divorced from Kevin Federline. And at the beginning of February, her mother's sister, Chandra, who she was really close to, died of cancer. So the things that Britney was dealing with at that time, if there's potentially drug use, whether it's intentional or not, added on to that, this would be a really challenging time for anybody.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know what else to ask. What do you want people to know about Britney's conservatorship and the fact that she should be taken out from under the conservatorship?
I heard some critiques that they wish that they talked about like whether she's bipolar or not, but she's never had a diagnosis released publicly, and I don't see why that would be necessary. Even if she does have a diagnosis, that wouldn't change the fact that the conservatorship's not the right fit for her, because basically I feel like the people that are really focusing on that, do you feel that people who sometimes do struggle with their mental health deserve to have their civil liberties taken away for the rest of their lives?
Yeah.
I think that it's important for people to learn more about conservatorships overall, because I think Britney's case is one where there's such obvious injustice to it that it makes it easier maybe for people to understand why this shouldn't be happening. Once you kind of look at the information, you know, this is someone who's made hundreds of millions of dollars, who's gone on tours, who's done residencies. She was on X Factor live on TV.
Yes.
You know, she did all of these things while supposedly not being capable enough to make basic judgments, you know, in her life and take care of basic needs in her life. So I think that's pretty obvious that that doesn't really make sense. But I do think this is an opportunity too for people to learn more about conservatorships in general. That's something that I didn't really know about them until Britney's case. And while they are very necessary for some people, a lot of the times conservatorships are entered into when it's not the right thing. And because, again, conservatorships are so restrictive and so binding, they really should be a last resort. And unfortunately, because they often have to do with money, conservatorship abuse is a very common thing where people are using conservatorships as a means to take advantage of people.
Thank you so much. That was really enlightening. And I like how you put it in the larger context of other people who are being put under conservatorships. I've heard a little bit about that happening to older people, particularly as a way to seize their assets.
There's a great documentary called The Guardians that's specifically about what you just said. So if people are interested in learning more, and there's also organizations that are trying to stop guardianship abuse. So there is information on that front if people want to learn more, because obviously a lot of us have older people or vulnerable people in our lives that we hopefully want to, do our best to support.
Well, thank you so much, Lisa. I really enjoyed talking to you. And I talk to you every week and I enjoy it.
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, I have really complicated thoughts on Britney. I do think that she needed some sort of mechanism, some added protection, especially when she was off the rails so hard in 2007, 2008. She needed something.
Yeah.
But it's outgrown its usefulness years ago, and it's shady as hell now.
Yeah, and like Lisa said, it's taken away somebody's civil rights forever.
Right.
When there's other ways to help somebody. And the documentary show that she mentioned, The Guardians, that's on Amazon Prime if you want to watch that, and that's just about conservatorships in general. Yeah, maybe Britney will be able to get out from under that. It's been a long battle for her. All right, let's move on to the user feedback. So we got a lot of nice feedback on our last podcast. And Tanisha, she works with us, but I'm still going to quote her. She writes as Oya. She said that we were giggling like teenagers over Kate Middleton's huge secret project. And that's true, but we always do that.
We were like really cracking each other up about Kate's super secret Keen project last week, though.
I didn't know she had announced it like last year, and it was probably a different one that she was thinking about. Like one day she thinks about it and she just calls somebody up. She's like, oh, I got this great idea. Let's put out a press release.
It really is like that. I mean, she's had so many secret Keen projects that she's going to announce.
We're going to ask people about how they parent their kids. No one has ever done that before.
Here's
the early
a question.
Years are important.
Do you like children? Yeah, that's like the survey.
Do you take time for yourself? And then La Unica Angelina, she tweeted what you said at the end when I was like, oh, I know why you don't want to speak out against Jeremy Renner because you think he's hot. You said, I like a dirtbag. What can I fucking say? And she said that we should put that on a t-shirt.
It's true. I like a dirtbag.
You do. And then you were tweeting about getting trolled this week. Sometimes people are just super fucking mean. And everybody was so sweet to us about that on Twitter and to you about it.
Yeah, it was really nice. It was very early in the morning. I mean, I'd been working for a few hours, but I was still like shocked at the venom that early in the morning. And it was in a comment. It felt very hostile and very personal. It just bugged me. Sometimes we get those comments though, and they're really creepy and they're just out of nowhere and nasty as hell.
And you wonder where is their mind at? Like, what are they thinking? What's going on in their lives? I covered an interview with Taraji Henson and she talked about that and how she deals with it. And that kind of helped me. I mean,
usually I'm fine. Usually I can laugh about it because a lot of these people are just crazy and unhinged. But for some reason, that comment, it shook me up a little bit. It did bug me.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Sometimes people are insane. They are like, whoa. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. So my comment of the week is on the post about Hilaria Baldwin because she's still not dialing it down. Like she wants to make some kind of comeback. She's trying to make a comeback and she's not even admitting what she did.
Yeah, she's still sticking to her story that she was raised in Spain. No, you weren't, girl. No, you weren't. Oh, I'm sorry. No,
you
weren't.
She's talking around it. Chica.
No mas, chica. No mas.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. So my comment of the week is from Chaine. And she wrote, my old standard for obnoxiously fake celebrity wife was Jessica Seinfeld with her so unoriginal cookbooks and her terrible attempts at blonde hair. Hillary has really raised the bar.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica Seinfeld, like, she seems super real compared to Hillary. Like,
she's an asshole, but, you know, yeah.
Oh,
she
yeah,
didn't
for
fake
sure.
her whole background, yeah. She just plagiarized somebody else's ideas and passed it off as her own.
I'm sure Hillary has done that too, but
yeah,
she was too busy Xeroxing a Spanish personality de España,
and putting her head on the stove.
All right, my comment of the week was from Prince William vows to personally stamp out racist abuse against footballers. Only against footballers.
Yeah.
He only cares about racism against footballers. Nowhere else.
Yeah, because it affects his favorite sport.
And someone commented with just like a general, he just doesn't get it, does he? And Julie says, he gets it. This is the calculated move of someone who totally gets it and understands that one day others will too. He's preparing with his, how can I be racist when some of my best charities are black?
That's exactly right.
Uh-huh.
Look, I'm against racism. It doesn't matter what I do. Well, thanks for listening, bitches.
Thanks, bitches.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.